Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. For those of you who don't know, not only do I do these YouTube videos on this channel, but I also self-publish on Amazon. So when I find interesting articles such as the one I'm about to cover here, well, let's just get to the article. This is from The Guardian. More are published than could ever succeed. Are there too many books? Well, maybe if you're putting out the ones that people actually wanted to read, there wouldn't be an issue. While some say the rise of self-publishing model is damaging the industry, others feel it gives authors a fairer deal. Yeah, considering that I actually get, what is it, 70% of sales from Amazon. The math is easy when it comes to the ebooks. Not so much with publishing, because the printed versions are going to have like the print cost that's deducted, and then there's the portion after that which they're going to get their 30% from that as well. So once they recoup print cost 30%, you get 70% of what's left over after that, which really isn't all that much. Better than what the publishing companies will give you, because usually it's either they call themselves a publishing company and they say, hey, for like $3,000, we can print your book. That's not how this is supposed to work. I've come across that quite a bit. To the article. The complaint that there are too many books is not a new one. My son, be warned by them, of making many books, there is no end. Reads one line in an Ecclesiastes. One of those chapters from the Bible, written at least 2,000 years before the invention of the printing press. Wasn't it scrolls back then? Of making many books, there is no end. Now the best-selling author Bill Bryson has added his voice to the millennia-old chorus. There are 200,000 books published annually in the UK alone, more books than you could possibly read. No one's trying to read all of them, bro. The writer of Notes from a Small Island told the Times he is not sure that the growth in self-publishing in particular is a healthy development. He said he gets sent a lot of self-published books, and most of the time it's just some anonymous person's life, and it is of no interest. Damn. That's kind of harsh, dude. I read some of your books, Bryson, and funny, haha. Bryson is not wrong that self-publishing has contributed significantly to Book Slop Mountain. More than 2.6 million books were self-published in 2023, many of which are uploaded to the dominant platform Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing. And they can't all be masterpieces. Nobody's claiming that they are. Nevertheless, the idea that self-publishing is the preserve of hopeless hobbyists producing books no one wants to read is at least a decade out of date. The romance author Colleen Hoover built her audience through self-publishing and has sold around 20 million books. Sarah J. Maas, the world's best-selling author in 2024, started publishing her romantasy fiction on fictionpress.com when she was 16. Frida McFadden, the hugely successful psychological thriller writer, claims to make 60% of her income via KDP and has continued to self-publish even as mainstream publishers seek her out. Good for her. Yeah, because she gets more royalties from them than she would if she was to go through somebody else. There has been this suspicion of self-published authors from the beginning one of the new breed of digital first publishers that are capitalizing on what she describes as a revolution in self-publishing. There is a perception that the quality is lacking, but you only have to look at the bestseller charts. So that was from Catherine Tausig. Indeed, self-publishing has allowed authors to provide precisely the sort of books that people want to read. Creative Insights director, that was from Natalie Butlin. There are self-published authors who are making millions, but you wouldn't have heard of them. The model has been particularly successful in catering to fans of genres that have been overlooked by mainstream publishers. For example, LGBTQ plus romances and romantasy. I've never heard of romantasy before this article. Or trends that are deemed to have passed, such as psychological thrillers or dystopian young adult fiction. Multi-million sellers are outliers, of course, but then again, so is Bryson within the world of traditional publishing. Butlin thinks that the real benefit of self-publishing is that it allows writers to make comfortable incomes in the middle of the market. In 2023, a survey of 2,000 self-published authors by the Alliance of Independent Authors found that almost half exceeded $20,000 in revenue and 28% earned more than $50,000, far more than the vast majority of traditionally published authors. Booyah! There you have it right there. Sending your shit out to publishers to, 1, not hear back at all, which is 9 times out of 10. 2, rejection letter. Sometimes it's not even a letter. Sometimes they just like, we're not interested. And they throw it in the envelope, and then they're like, why are we spending money on postage to write back to this guy? Or rejection emails. Now it's emails, right? But I remember getting the envelope in the mail, and it's like, you put it up to the light, and you're just like, it's not even a letter. Is that like a napkin? And you open it up, it's just like, no. If you can write a book that people want to read and you package it well, you can make $25,000 to $30,000 per book. It's really not an unreasonable expectation. Meanwhile, traditionally published authors will receive an advance payment, usually paid in installments, on signing the contract after submitting the final manuscript and on publication. Advance amounts vary a lot depending on the author, but typically a debut author can expect to receive between $5,000 to $10,000 total. And that's like a one-time thing. I know one guy, he got a contract for 3 books. He was supposed to write 3 books. And if you're German, 3 books. He got his first 2 published, and then 2020 happened. He had his 3rd book that he turned in. It's still shelved today. I have not seen this 3rd book. And I still follow the guy on Instagram. It's just in limbo. After that, many authors never see any money again. Royalties are only paid after the advance amount has been made back through book sales. The self-publishing model is, of course, only possible thanks to digital technology. Most self-publishing concerns ebooks, and the real engine is Kindle Unlimited. I have me some issues with the Kindle library. The Prime Kindle library. Amazon subscription service, which allows readers to download 20 titles at a time for $10 a month. Paying authors based on the number of pages read. Bullshit. A model that shares features with YouTube's minutes watched revenue system. Okay, let me break this down even more. They say it's for pages read. And if you have a longer book, the more pages they read, the more you get paid. That amount that you get paid per page is a small fraction of the amount that Amazon sets aside for that month to be paid out among all their communist authors out there. So every book that month that is downloaded and or pages read will be divided up amongst that $20 million that they set aside. Sounds like a lot of money. You're like, wow, they read how many pages this month? And you're thinking like you're going to get a nice check. And then you do the math and it's like 0.15 cent per page. And you're like, so if they read the entire book, I might get $2. Maybe, almost, for a book that I have on there for $15 in print and $5 on ebook. This math is not adding up, and it changes. It varies by the month. The most successful self-published authors have become highly savvy in their pursuit of pages read. That's if they're using the Kindle library. That's if they're actually putting it in there, which I stopped doing because I had a book where I should, because of the number of reviews and the number of downloads and pages read and everything, I should have brought in at least 20 grand. And I made maybe $300. So that whole system is bullshit. Basically, if you want to support an author, I don't care if you have your Prime membership or not, you're not doing anyone any favors. Well, I'm supposed to get free blah, 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 blah. Well, I don't have to have it in the library for you to download. So there's that. Because I'm not going to get paid for it. That's all there is to it. In many cases, employing precisely the same freelance editors, cover artists, and formatting tools as traditional publishers. But the real advantage, she says, is the feedback loop they can enter into with their readers. These writers are really listening to what the readers are saying almost in real time. They think about which characters the readers respond to and how to include them more. It's a two-way street in that way that traditional publishing isn't. It's why they've been so successful and they get to keep so much more of the money they made. So yeah. The other side of the coin is plummeting author revenues in the traditional industry. The Authors Licensing and Collecting Society reported in 2022 that the median income of full-time authors has fallen by around 60% since 2006 to just $7,000 a year. Are you serious? Because these traditional publishing houses are also providing ebooks and selling their stuff online, like places such as Amazon. So they have expanded distribution and they're paying people less. Ross Raisin, an acclaimed British novelist, recently described the deflated experience of publishing his fourth novel, A Hunger, to positive reviews, only to be told by a major high street book chain that they didn't have space for it on their shelves. Okay. Indeed, it could be argued that it's the big five, but the thing is, are they blaming indie writers for that? Because they're not being put on the shelves in these big stores. So who's to blame for this? James Patterson? He takes up an awful lot of space. Indeed, it could be argued that the big five mainstream publishers, Penguin, Random House, Hachette, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, and Macmillan, who are more guilty of overproduction, Butlin began her career as a literary agent but became disillusioned that the publishing wasn't learning the lesson from the music industry, which had been completely disrupted by digital technology. She felt that self-publishing offered more opportunities. Traditional publishers spend most of their marketing budget on the books that have received the largest advances and almost nothing on the books that don't. Kind of seems a little contrary, don't you think? So most books don't really even get a chance, she says. You can make a relatively sensible guess as to what will sell, but it's still essentially gambling. Publishers will end up with a few erroneous hits that cover the losses. But what it means is that many authors end up feeling like it's their fault when their books don't sell. Okay. Ooh, what's this highlighted part? Far more books are published than could ever succeed. He says it's chiefly a natural result of readers being unpredictable. No one can publish only bestsellers. James Patterson. So the publishing industry is inevitably wedded to a model of overproduction. How long is this article? Because it looks like, oh, we're almost to the end. The trouble is the model sort of works for the publishers. The industry is not broken, pointing to the extremely healthy profits of the big five publishers, but the model does rely on the imbalance between the author and the publisher's share. That's one reason for the growth in self-publishing. It can feel like you get a fairer share, especially when advances in royalty rates are so low. Traditional authors are doing much of the marketing anyway. Still, self-publishing is far from a cure-all. It thrives on commercial fiction, but literary fiction and children's fiction, which rely more on physical books and critical acclaim, have yet to find a niche. It's good at providing what readers want, but not what might challenge them. There's also plenty of poorly edited algorithm-chasing titles designed to exploit fleeting trends on KDP. That's fair. Though it's not as if traditional publishers aren't guilty of churning out seasonal, trend-driven books. Either we have HarperCollins to thank for the Pumpkin Spice Cafe series. What the hell is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe series? Okay, there's no link to that. Thank God. There's just some things people don't need to know. More seriously, no one I speak to has a convincing answer about what happens when Amazon does what tech platforms invariably do, which is squeeze its customers for more money. No, they're squeezing the writers for less money is what's happening. It used to be fair, then it became less fair, and now it's just a shit show. And it's like, well, if you're not going to put your books in our KDP Select program library for our Prime members in order to download for free, and we'll pay you for the pages, but you're not writing long books, so we're not going to pay you that much. It's insane. No, they can stick their KDP Select right where the sun doesn't shine because it's, at this point, just a scam. The whole thing is just a scam. More seriously, no one I speak to has a convincing answer about what happens when Amazon does. Okay. It's a bit like being a YouTuber. Everyone thinks that they are going to be one of the few who make a lot of money. In truth, the vast majority just feed the machine, while the channel, Amazon, in this case, makes a fortune out of exploiting the long tail. Am I just wasting my time here? Don't tell me that's true, YouTube. You're hurting my feelings. For now, though, it hardly seems like a terrible thing that there are different ways for authors to make money. It's making traditional publishing work harder. Publishing director, blah, blah, blah. They can't be complacent because they're no longer the gatekeepers. They're not just competing with other publishers. They're competing with authors who don't necessarily need them anymore. What is it? Michael J. Sullivan? Is he one of them? He's like the fantasy author that he was a lawyer. Then he started writing fantasy novels. Got to the point where he's making 6 figures a year writing these fantasy novels. And then they went to a publisher because they're like, we want wider distribution and translated editions, blah, 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 build the audience. And then he just went back to self-publishing because he's like, yeah, I quadrupled my audience size and now I'm like hitting close to like millionaire status, so suck it. There are more diverse voices, more working class writers. They acknowledged me. I feel special. More people who wouldn't pass the publishing gates. Stop talking about me. Finding readers. There are always going to be people who think there are too many books, but it's not as if anyone is forcing anyone to read them. Thank you. If you don't like my channel, change it. Okay. Why is there something about Trump at the bottom? Good Lord. So yeah, nice little article about the current state of the publishing industry. I wish they would have gone more into the whole KDP Select program because it's absolutely horrible right now. Like the amount of money I should have made on some of my books, it's crazy what they're paying out these days. And the only reason I get paid more now with less books being sold is because it's not getting graped by the KDP Select payout system. Basically, when you go to Amazon right now and you pick up one of my ebooks or order a printed version, I actually get the royalties. Amazon is squeezing so much out of what should be paid to authors for books that they put in their program. And then they're like, well, we're just not going to advertise your book. How are you advertising the millions of books that are already in your KDP Select library? How? We're just not going to show it. So yeah, I would encourage everyone, if there is a self-published author that you enjoy, that you like, when you go on the Amazon, go to their author page or just go to Google, type their name in, write author page Amazon, go to that because that's going to show you everything that is out. You can also follow them. Amazon will actually tell you when these authors put a new book out and notify you via email or however it is that you have it set up that something is out, because sometimes stuff just disappears. You put it on there and you're wondering weeks later, like, how did I sell 2 copies? What happened? So there you go. That is the current state of publishing. There's a lot of accurate stuff in here. I will give them that. And if I could figure out what the hell some of these other people are doing, Romantasy. Oh God. Nope, not going there. Keep on typing.